Hey there, I'm Sean Collins, and I'm the esports reporter with the Dallas Morning News. I cover OpTic Texas of the Call of Duty League and the Dallas Fuel of the Overwatch League. And we just had Major 1 of the Call of Duty League. It was hosted here in Arlington. I was there for 3 of the 4 days covering OpTic Texas. And just kind of commentating on some of the other matches. OpTic Texas had a tremendous weekend. They played their best Call of Duty, both of the season and some of the best Call of Duty in the history of the OpTic brand. Although they've had some pretty iconic teams, but they definitely played the best Call of Duty since maybe the last 3 years or so for OpTic. Beat FaZe twice, beat London, beat Seattle. They looked pretty dominant all weekend long, apart from the first 2 maps against FaZe on Saturday. And so I just thought I'd bring my power rankings after the weekend and all the dust settled. Obviously, that top spot, it's got to be OpTic Texas. They looked like the better team compared to Atlanta FaZe, which I think is a big deal because FaZe has been a monster for both seasons in the CDL. They did lose to the Dallas Empire in 2020, but in 2021 they were the best team far and away, apart from a few pockets against the Toronto Ultra. But for OpTic to beat Atlanta twice during the weekend, and I think the total map count between the two series was 8-4, I believe. That's a pretty dominant weekend. I still think FaZe belongs in that S tier for sure. I think they're better than anybody else right now besides OpTic. But in that A tier, I think London showed out to be a really good team this year. They proved themselves. They were beating good teams. They beat the Ultra. They took a map off of FaZe. They played well against OpTic. They're just a quality team. I do think that the LA Thieves are also a pretty good team. They really missed their opportunity to beat FaZe and knock FaZe out of the tournament and give themselves a championship shot as well. I do think the Ultra still belong in A tier. For them to finish top 4 and not win a single hard point was pretty insane. I mean, you have to wonder what happens if they do win a hard point or two. If their hard point improves just a little bit, they're gonna be higher up in A, or maybe even sneak up into that S tier. I still think Toronto is a team that should be respected. I think the B and C tier is where it gets a little bit tough. Boston and Minnesota did have decent runs at the major. I thought that they both looked okay, which is kind of where I put them in that mid tier. They can show some improvement. I think it might take a little bit for either team to sneak up into the A tier. I think those top 5 are pretty solid for me right now. For the C tier, Seattle Surge, they had a pretty big drop. I was pretty disappointed by how they played this weekend. They lost to OpTic, they got swept, and then they also lost to the Paris Legion. So I'm going to bump them down to C tier for now. We need to see a whole lot more out of them. I do think that the Gorillas are okay, but they're just so streaky. I think I need to see more consistent gameplay out of all 4 players on that team. Nobody's really been that consistent. Kind of the same deal with Florida, though Florida has been a little bit better than I thought that they were going to be. I think that Florida might be the team in this area, besides maybe Seattle, that could jump up the most. But in that D tier, it's still going to be Paris, though they're a little bit better. I removed them from that bottom spot. I still think that they're probably a roster move away. The subliners are such an interesting note. Obviously, they have really good players in Crim6 and Clayster and Hydra, and now Royalty replacing Neptune. But they just aren't clicking right now. They're not playing team Call of Duty. They just have been a bit of a surprise, I think, for everyone, for them to be so low. I'm not sure if that they just aren't playing fast enough or playing the pace of that Vanguard kind of demands, but I think that they're the most underwhelming team in the Call of Duty League right now, and that'll wrap up my power rankings.